Hey everyone, it is Michael Zaprisky here, and I'm really excited to have Philip Stutts with us. Philip, welcome.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be here today, and
Yeah,
let's roll.
let's do it. So, you are an author, you're the founder of and CEO of Win Big Media, a corporate marketing agency. You're also the founder, kind of executive chairman of Go Big Media, a political marketing firm. You've appeared on ESPN, CBS, Fox, CNN, a whole bunch more. And you've been interviewed by some very well-known names: Anderson Cooper, Gary Vaynerchuk, James Altucher. The list goes on. And I want to get into,
Mhm.
how you've used your marketing skills to contribute to over 1,400 election victories, including presidential victories. But before we do that, let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get into this world of marketing and politics, and like just take us back in time a little bit?
Yeah, Michael, how old are you? Do you say you're allowed to say?
I'm turning 40.
Nice. Well, congratulations. Welcome to the club. I'm 47. And so I grew up as a 1980s kid, and I was really one of the first generation of ADD kids, attention deficit disorder. There wasn't ADHD. We didn't even have the H back then. It was just ADD.
Right.
And ultimately, I was one of those kids back in the 80s. It was like a curse to have ADD. And, I was told I was dumb. They put me in classes that were literally right above special ed. And it's all because I had a problem concentrating and my attention span, all that stuff.
Mm,
And so I ultimately knew that I had to do something that I was passionate about in life. As I went through high school and college, everybody like, you should get a sales job selling trucking beds and things like that. And I'm like, I think I'd throw up every day if that was my job. There's nothing wrong with that. Just for me personally, it wasn't. I knew I had to have something that was exciting and fun and purpose driven. And I didn't really care about money. I still, to this day, in a weird way, I don't money doesn't really drive me. It probably drives my wife insane that I don't think this way, but I really don't. I'm really purpose driven. So ultimately, I started reading about politics and reading about political campaigns when I was in college, and not I didn't get into like the policy issues as much, like how are we going to change education or how are we going to change the environment or tax structures or things like that. I wanted to know how the marketing game of politics was played. I've always been sort of fascinated by it, and so when I turned 22, I did an internship on a presidential campaign in the United States, and I got hooked on working in the political world because despite all the negativity associated with it today, I mean, you're still fighting for things you believe in, people you believe in, and ultimately the policies that you
mm,
believe will help and shape your country and your community. And so that's what drove me. That's what motivated me. That's why I got into politics. And then, weirdly enough, about 5 or 6 years ago, I hit you may go through this, Michael, but I think I went through sort of that midlife crisis. My parents' generation, they went out and bought like motorcycles and wore do rags and got weird. Uh, and now, the way I looked at it was I couldn't keep doing the same thing I've always done. And
mm.
so I said, I wonder, I had actually a friend that was a huge, massive land developer in Hawaii. And he's like, hey, do you think you could apply your political marketing tactics into my corporate marketing, into selling this land and all this stuff? And I said, oh, that's interesting. Let's see if we can try it. And we did. And we literally blew out of the water his sales of his property, lot sales. They were selling personal lots.
Right.
And I'm like, ooh, there's something here. And so then I decided, well, maybe that's something we can develop. So I've written 2 books on how to utilize political marketing strategies and tactics in order to grow your bottom line. And then I created my own corporate marketing agency that we've now, grown like crazy. And so I guess there's a niche in the marketplace. And the reason I tell you that is because, I'm completely convinced that marketing today is rigged against the business owner. It's rigged against them in every way possible.
Mm,
The social media platforms change their algorithms. they cancel people, they downgrade people. Sometimes we see this a lot with Facebook. Facebook was an incredible platform to advertise on 4 years ago, and now it's not. And I know the reasons why. We can get into that, but it's not anymore. And most business owners don't know that, and they're running the same campaign over and over and over again. And it works until it doesn't, and then they don't know why. And so I got obsessed with that and said, well, you know what, I'm gonna be an outlier in this market. And really my purpose now is I developed a systematic approach to marketing that ensures that the business owner has an ROI on their marketing spend every single time. And we've developed that to massive success. I've written a best-selling book on it, and kind of that's where it led me to meet you.
There we go. So let's go back to that time where you have experience in political marketing and campaign, that whole world. You have this friend who's selling lots in Hawaii. What did you bring to that experience? What did you take from the political world and bring it into the land sales world that was different? Just kind of walk us through that, like illustrate that with a bit of an example.
So first of all, a lot of corporate marketing agencies play a lot of blocking, or they play a lot of tactical games, or they sit around a table and they say, your business is, they say this to the business owner, oh, we love your business. Let me tell you, we sat around, we brainstormed, here's a couple of ideas we know will help you grow. How do they know it's going to help them grow? They don't know. They're guessing. Everybody guesses. 99.9% of marketers guess. What I have in politics that I've now translated or transferred over to business in the marketing world is the ability to take the guesswork out of marketing. And how do we do that? So with this particular business owner, he had spent $50,000 in a marketing campaign, most of it going to the Wall Street Journal weekend edition, where in their hard copy paper, you list, these developments in cool places like Hawaii and Alaska and all this stuff, right? And Vancouver, you know what I'm talking about. And so marketing agency had told him to do that. Well, a marketing agency made a bunch of money off of a $50,000 ad buy, and they got one lead into their business. So when I sat down with him, I said, well, hold on, who are you marketing to? And he said, well, the Wall Street Journal, people read that, they've got money. And I said, but that's going to go to people in New York. And he goes, yeah. I said, but people in New York aren't buying property in Hawaii. I said, what is your market? And he's like, well, I assume it's probably people in Hawaii. There's a military base nearby, so maybe military families. They're people that have moved into these developments from the lower 49, and probably California and Arizona, because it's easy to get, that's where they vacation, when they go. And I said, well, why don't we look at that market and then devise a strategy to help you? And so we went in and did a deep dive into the customer markets, both military families in the area of Hawaii that they were selling land plots. But we also went in and looked at the marketplace and found that people that were buying properties in Hawaii were 55 and older, not younger. By the way, this Wall Street Journal ad, it could go to anybody. You just don't know. Well, it's 55 and older that are thinking about retirement, that want to retire in Hawaii.
Right.
And so we ended up finding that market, only marketing to those people. He told us, I've lost so much money, I'm only going to spend $5,000 on this campaign. We ended up getting him something like 723 leads. He ended up converting over 100 people, bought lots, and the development sold out.
Right.
In 6 months. My point is this, Michael, I'm obsessed with customer data. And, that's probably the great pivot we could go to, but that's where I get really granular. And for the people listening right now, this is the secret sauce. If you want to know the way that you can take your clients or your business to the next level, wait until we talk about what's available out there on the data side.
Before we do that, how often do you see, and how common is it that you can trace back to a campaign, to a marketing initiative, that the crux, that the core of what went wrong is that the consultant, the entrepreneur, the business owner did not have real clarity around who their ideal client was? Like, is that one of the top issues, if not the top issue? Like, how do you see
100% of the time?
So that's the big 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they get their customer wrong 100% of the time. That's not what I'm saying. But
Mm-hmm.
all their problems derive from not understanding where their customers are, what they want to hear from that business, and then delivering on that.
Right. Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah. So I'm going to put like a little marker on this. And we're going to come back to it. Before we do that though. So you had this experience in the political world.
Yeah.
You worked with this one, kind of friend client in Hawaii land sales. You've created two companies, right? One company that focuses more on political kind of marketing, one that is more for business owners and marketing. Which one of those came first?
Oh, the political. I've spent 26 years working on political campaigns. Really, I've spent 26 years reading the data of voters and then interpreting that for politicians. That's really all I do now is I interpret the customer data on the corporate side and build marketing campaigns for the business owner. I mean, it's literally just the same thing, just in different lanes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And how did you go about landing your political clients when you were building that firm initially? Walk us through just your experience. Like if you look at your first few clients that really led to the growth of the business, where did they come from? How did you get it?
It was funny because I had to put this down today. I invested $120,000 in 2015. I had no clients. Today, we've done over $55 million in business on the political side. We'll hit over 100 million in 2 years. And I've never spent $1 on advertising.
So where'd they come from? Walk us through that.
Reputation, number one.
Yep.
If I lose more than I win, I'm never going to get hired. Everybody knows my record. All my competitors know my record in politics, and you better win, right? I think at this point, we just had elections in the United States and Virginia and New Jersey and some other places, and we ended up having 26 wins. So I've been a part of 1,433 election victories since 1996. And so, I'm known to win. And then second is relationships. I know I've spent 26 years in a very insular industry, built great relationships. People know my reputation. So my reputation has helped build relationships. And then I've leveraged those relationships into referrals. Right. So I call them the 3 R's. It's reputation, right? It's relationships and referrals. And then the referrals, I mean, I've built many referral mechanisms out of my company that have produced millions and millions of dollars of business. I learned that from the great Jay Abraham. If you're familiar with Jay.
Yeah, no, actually, I heard Jay interview you a while back, and I was on his podcast as well, probably 2 or 3 years ago now. But such a wealth of information he is,
and especially with the referrals.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk through that, because consultants, like most business owners, are very guilty of being quite reactive when it comes to referrals. They love referrals, they want more of them, but they don't do anything to go out and actually generate them. Right. For you, and when you're thinking about your own company or clients in the world of professional services, what's maybe 1 or 2 examples of something that you've done or you've seen people do that works really well to generate more referrals?
Yeah, I mean, the one that we did that was the biggest generator was we found a complementary industry that wasn't competitor, and they had much bigger and larger clients in our industry. And we went to them and we say, we have this service that you guys don't, and you don't want to build it within your company. You don't want to have to hire 20 people. You don't want to have pay uninsurance or insurance on them, or unemployment or taxes. Just farm it out to us. And here's the thing, we'll split all the profits with you. No one in our business had ever done such a move. They never ask for referrals in the political marketing space. They're so selfish. Like, it's insane, right? So I said, well, if I'm just act unselfishly, I wonder if we can grow this thing really fast. And that's been probably the number one growth we've had. Now, we don't utilize that referral system anymore with them because we grew out of them. We kind of offer the same services they do. Yeah. So, we've changed and adapted the intent and purpose of our company. But that definitely launched us from 0 to millions early.
Yeah, I mean, as a framework and kind of as an approach, I think that's a really powerful one. Let's just go a little bit deeper into that for everybody to understand what you did. So there's this other company or organization that is offering something that you don't offer.
Yeah, I'll go specifically if you want me to.
Yeah, no,
If
I'd
that
love to hear
illustrates it.
what you did, and who did you target? Was this the CEO or owner of the company, an executive director? Like, did you
Yeah,
reach out to them by phone, by email? Kind of walk us through that.
yeah, there was an ad agency that was much bigger. I mean, they've been around for 20 years. They had like we talked about a second ago, they had a great reputation. They had tons and tons and tons of clients, and people flocked to. They didn't have to do any business development. People just came to their agency. That they didn't offer. They were they shot TV ads.
Right.
They didn't do digital ads. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to them and I said, I'm a digital ad guy, not a TV guy. So you can sell digital ads and we'll do all the work and then we'll split the profits with you. And you don't have to hire anybody out. You just take free money.
Mm-hmm.
And they went, ooh, free money. Who doesn't like free money?
Yeah.
And in fact, there's this saying in politics, we call it mailbox money because it just shows up in your mailbox and you don't do anything for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had that partnership for 4 years with those guys until they said, I think we want to build this internally. And we said, you know what? We want to shoot some TV ads now. And that's okay. We're still friends with those guys. But at the same time, we just worked ourselves out. But it gave us 4 years of unbelievable growth in the company. And now we don't have to do those things anymore because we have the reputation in the business to not have to give out our profits.
And Philip, when you reached out to them, number one, who did you reach out to in that company, in that agency? And was that through an email, a phone call? How did you start that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we knew who they were, and they knew who we were. I mean, we weren't unknowns in the industry. We just had started a new company, right?
Gotcha.
So it's a very small industry. So we just reached out to the founder and the CEO, who was at the time like 60 years old, and he's like, "Yeah, this digital thing is so confusing. I don't want to do it." We're like, "Good, we'll pay you. You bring us the clients, we'll do the work, we'll give you money."
Yeah.
Do you? But for everybody listening, do you hear that? We'll do the work, and we'll just give you the money. That works every time. Every time. If someone came to me and said, "Philip, you don't have to do anything. I'm literally going, you don't have to do any work and we're going to send you checks." I think I'd probably be pretty happy with that.
The key that you just mentioned that really stands out to me is, making it very easy for the other party, right? You do all the work. They just get to benefit, but obviously it does benefit you as well.
But we were taking the work off their plate that they felt like they were losing out on. Two, they didn't want to do it. It was a pain in the ass for them. So, and then three, we were bringing in clients to them. We actually got some clients that wanted TV done, some TV shoots. We said, "Yeah, give it to them." And they were like, "Damn, these guys, not only are they making us free money, they're not giving us clients." So we built a really great strategic plan together with them.
So with your marketing company now that's working with business owners, not on the political side, one of the things that you start off kind of every engagement with is a very deep dive kind of research report that gets into identifying all those kind of, customer demographic. I know it's like millions of points of data. Can you just talk a little bit more about what is that and why let's actually just first start with what is that kind of typical entry point into the firm? And then I have a whole bunch of other questions on that.
Yeah. So again, you probably get the sense I'm obsessed. It's kind of like in politics, Michael. I like politicians. I kind of like them before they get elected rather than when they're elected. But I like them a lot. But I'm not in love with them. I'm in love with the voter in politics. I want to know what the voter cares about. What moves them? What moves someone to say, "I am going to take the effort to go vote for an unknown, even an unsavory politician because they represent these issues that are really important to me." So I'm sort of obsessed with it. I've been obsessed with that forever. And it's empathy, right? The politician, and I'm going to lead to this, but your question, but when the politician asks me to work for them, the first thing I say is, "What do you want to run on? What issues do you want to run on? What are they? Economic? Are they environmental, or what social? What are they?" Inevitably, they tell me 10, 15, 20 issues they want to run on. Well, no matter what, no one wants to hear 15 issues from a politician. They want to hear one or two. Go back to what you said a second ago. Simple. Keep it simple, right? So what we do in politics is we then go poll the voters in that state, that district, that, if it's a presidential campaign in the country, and we find out of the 15, 20, 25 issues that politician said they want to run on, which one resonates the most? Which one of those issues would, if they knew this politician was going to run on that issue, he already believes in it. It's not something he doesn't believe in, but if they knew he was going to run on that issue, it would get them to, he could win the election because there were
And
enough.
Philip, just so that those
Yeah.
that aren't familiar with that process, how do you actually go out and poll these people? Well, what does that look like?
That would probably be another episode. So you just have to trust me on this because it's so scientific and it takes too much time.
But I mean, just to simplify, like, is this
all that
an
data
online survey
exists.
or phone
Yeah,
call?
you do verbal, phone call surveys, but then you match that up against consumer data, a bunch of different things. So maybe that's answering your question in a more
Yeah, that's good
simplified
enough.
way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we come up with 1-2 issues that we know if we just run our campaign on this, we're going to win the race. And so to go back to your question, how do we do it in corporate America? It's really kind of the same way, except a little bit different in this way. I became so obsessed with this and thinking, there's something here that can really help businesses, that I went out and created a partnership with the largest data collection, analytics, and AI company in America. And in our database, we have 240 million Americans, 550 million connected devices. We're tracking 10 billion online purchasing decisions every day and 1 trillion searches. That's my database. So I can take your business and I can take your customer list and I can overlay that online. Now, let me be clear here. I can only do this in the United States. It is not, there are too many privacy laws on data in Europe, Canada, anywhere else. So this is in the US. But we overlay that data, the customer data online, and we can actually track their movements. We don't know who they are specifically. We know IP addressed, how they are doing or what they're doing. What are they purchasing? What are they buying? Then we can match it to our modeled audience of billions and billions and billions of data points. And then I can spit out a 55 to 75 page report on everything you've ever wanted to know about your customer, everything, or client. We do this on the B2B side. I'm talking the social media platforms they're on in a chronological order, what they specifically read, what they specifically watch, because we track their OTT movements or connected TV movements, right? We connect that, we are tracking what they're reading online. I can even tell you the top 3 values in the lives of your customers or clients. Okay. So I spit out this massive report. And from that point, and I can tell you why they make purchasing decisions. I can tell you the messages they want to receive from you, the business owner. I know everything about them. So my point is, my whole job as a marketer is to eliminate the risk of the business owner each step. So when a business owner says, hey, I want to run out and this marketing team says, we got to start with our brand first. And I say, well, why? And they go, because we got to build the brand before we get them to come to the website and all that stuff. And I say, but what if your brand is off in the minds of the customer? We can also track these same customers, putting a pixel on your website, or we can actually build a modeled or lookalike audience based on everything, a business owner tells us. So we can we can slice and dice it a million different ways. Now we've done it for Fortune 200 companies, but I got the exclusive licensing deal because I said to myself, Fortune 200 companies can afford a $200,000 data report, but small businesses can't. And I wanted to offer it to small businesses. So I pay $500,000 every 2 years for the exclusive licensing agreement. And then I charge small businesses a fraction of that cost so that they can look at their own customer data and get smarter in their marketing. And the reason, again, we do this is, again, we are in an age where people are disconnected and people are living on their phones and people are running around and they're changing their spending habits and behaviors. You need to be on top of that if you're going to go communicate and message to them. You need to know. And by the way, the crazy thing is not just on spending money. We've helped so many B2B companies help with their sales process because now we know what the customer thinks. Can I give you an example?
Please, yeah.
This is my favorite one too. This is fun. Okay. So we work with one of the largest title companies in the state of Florida. Okay. Title company, is when you go to close on your house, the title company sets up the closing and all that stuff, right? No one has ever bought a house and said, you know what? I wonder who our title company is. No, the customer is the real estate agent, because the real estate agent, and this has happened to me dozens of times, says, Philip, you're buying this property, you're buying this house. The closing is at this title company on Wednesday. We'll see you there. I'm like, oh, okay. I just go because my real estate agent tells me. So we looked and we started working with them, and they were number 3 in the market and they wanted to be number 1. And so we ended up saying, well, give us all the real estate agents that you've worked with in the entire regions of Florida that you work in. And we overlaid that online and we tracked them. And we found out a lot of different things, but this is a fun story. So I'll tell you one thing we found that was pretty funny. We found out that 72% of the real estate agents owned dogs. They were buying dog food, buying dog toys, searching dog things. We knew that they owned dogs. If you knew as a business owner that that 72% of your entire market likes something that wasn't offensive to the other 28%, that's a game changer. Like, it's just like me telling you, I can tell you the top values in the lives of your customers. That's just a game changer. So we said, guys, we got to brand this company around dogs. We started running ads on dogs. Dogs can walk around the office. The brand on the website has dogs on the website. They have bio pages, all that stuff. They've now become the number 1 title company in their region of Florida. They are an over $1 billion company. They didn't become $1 billion company because I ran an ad on dogs, but trust me on this. The whole point is to find deeper connections with your customers or clients. And when we look in the data, that's what we found. The sales teams now go out, and one of the first questions they have when they meet with a real estate agent is, oh, do you own a dog? Because we're this dog crazy company. Let me tell you the story about the dogs. And every time it blows them out of the water. By the way, that didn't cost the sales team. The sales team now is using it as a talking point. That doesn't cost you anything. And so we just want to use data for good, not to steal things and collect and try to trick you or anything like that. We want to use it for good, but we want to find deeper connections with our marketplace. And
when you create this kind of like this is your front end offer. It's the first thing you typically would do with a new client.
It's the only thing. I won't work with you unless you undertake it, because I don't want to be more successful than the business owner.
Correct. So you start with that before you go into then, okay, now we know what the opportunities are. We can help you with managing the ads or rolling out a marketing campaign or whatever it might be. When you started thinking about this as an offering, how did you arrive at this kind of structure? And, as opposed to it being a bigger engagement, an hourly thing, you've really kind of productized and packaged this. Yeah. Did it always look like this, or has it gone through?
No. In fact, I got fired from a client, and that's how it came out.
Tell me more about that.
Oh, you want to hear about me getting fired? Yeah.
No, I want it. Well, you can tell me about
it's a good story.
The development of this, because a lot of people, in our community are always looking at how can they package and position, place value on their expertise. And these kinds of discovery offers are a really good way to approach it. But I'd love to hear how you got to where you are.
I wrote my first book, which Jay Abraham wrote the foreword. It's called Fire Them Now: The 7 Lies Digital Marketers Sell. Okay. Did great. Built the corporate marketing agent, launched the corporate marketing agency with it. Started picking up clients. We ended up picking up, this is the biggest client we had ever picked up. It was a 8-figure company. It was heading to be a 9-figure company. And they sold supplements. And they came to us and they said, we're ready to go to this 9-figure company. And they said, help us. And the guy's like, I'm obsessed with politics. I think it'd be exactly what we need. No one else is doing this kind of marketing. Let's go. So I said, awesome. And so we started running some campaigns without utilizing the system that we do. We were just randomly taking all these political tactics and just utilizing them randomly, right? And we started having some success for the guy. And it was like, man, this thing is crushing. This is awesome. And then he's like, Philip, I want to run a campaign on my largest or the best selling supplement I have on Instagram. And we said, cool, let's do it. And so we had our professional photographers out. We took pictures of the supplement. We put up this post. We hadn't taken it live, and we presented it to the owner with all the messaging and ad campaign. And we weren't, we were looking at the data too. Trust me, we were looking at the data, so we knew it'd work. But we were about to launch this campaign. We showed it to him, and he said, what in the hell are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Philip, you can't take a picture without a human on it and put it on Instagram. It would ruin my algorithm. I've spent 5 years building this algorithm on Instagram, and whether it's paid or it's organic, if you screw around with it, Instagram will literally take my algorithm and put it in the trash. He goes, how do you not know that? And I went, we made a mistake. I'm so sorry. And
Mm,
he said, well, okay. And I said, listen, let us fix this and we'll talk to you in 3 or 4 days and we'll present you with a new one with, an athlete on it or whatever. And, and pictured with the supplement and we'll get on this. We'll fix it. Well, we hung up the phone or the Zoom. We were doing Zoom. And this was not Zoom, but it was like FaceTime back in like
right.
5 years ago. So anyway, I can tell you this, that was the last time I ever talked to the guy.
Mm,
He ghosted to me and he ghosted my company. And there was the biggest client at the time we had ever landed.
mm.
And
So
we,
what did that teach you in terms of your offering, that offer you've now developed? What was the lesson there
so
for
I
you?
literally was so pissed and distraught over this that I locked myself in my office for 2 weeks. And one of the things that one of my mentors, Keith Cunningham, teaches is this thing called thinking time, where you write down a question in longhand on a pen and paper, and then you just write for like 45 minutes and answer the question. And like all these crazy things happen. You can go on YouTube and look it up. How the process works is crazy. But I
Mm,
did a thinking time, and I asked the question was, what do we do in politics that we get so right that can help businesses grow? Just that question. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And I realized, and I'm the first person, even in politics, to ever identify that there's a systematic approach that we take to elect politicians. No, everybody does it inherently, but
mhm,
no one's ever verbalized it in politics. And so I went, oh, shoot, man, this is it. There's a 5-step system that we utilize to elect any politician, from presidents to dog catcher to mayor. And if you do it the right way, you win almost every single time in politics. I go, I wonder if we should just try the systematic approach with businesses on the corporate side. So I literally called my team together and I said, we stop all the campaigns you're running for our clients right now. We're going to follow this systematic approach. I call it the undefeated marketing system. It's the title of my second book. You can go on Amazon. It's literally my manifesto. So it tells you step by step how it came about, where we did it, and then the success and the failures we've had with it. But we started utilizing it. And honestly, every single company that has undergone this 5-step undefeated marketing system has grown their bottom line.
mm.
Every single one. In a world where almost every business owner comes to us having failed at marketing, fired multiple marketing agencies, come with their hands up and said, I can't get this right. I don't know what I'm doing. Everything doesn't, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've solved that problem. Now, we had to learn a lot of lessons along the way, but we've got this thing on lockdown, and now all we do is just optimize the hell out of it every single day, and it's growing every business. Now, there is a set of business owners out there, Michael. I know you know this business owner, being in your industry, that they want the get rich quick pill. Sound familiar with some
Mhm.
business owners? Right. I
Yeah, yeah.
don't have the get rich quick pill. I have a methodical approach that grows your bottom line every time, but you have to put in the work to do it. And the companies that have had explosive growth. For example, we work currently with a 106-year-old furniture chain. And while working with us following this undefeated marketing system, they've had 10 record growth months in the last 20 months. We work with a national pest control company who had the greatest month in the history of their company after undergoing the marketing. They've been around for 41 years. And we work with a law firm out of New York that's been around 27 years, and they have grown 8x since
Mm.
working with us doing the undefeated marketing
So
system.
Philip, I
Why?
just want to jump in because I
Yep.
want to ask you and find out here for those that are listening, right? I mean, you've talked about the power of this front end discovery offer that you have, where you're
Yeah.
overlaying data, right? Turning that into a really powerful report that can show,
Right.
identify big opportunities. And I want to talk about what you do with that in just a moment. But for those who are, let's just say, might be getting started or are very early in their marketing journey, and if you are right now, let's say, getting started, and you didn't have a budget to invest thousands or tens of thousands or whatever
Hmm.
this might be, because I know it's not just $100 or whatever. What would you recommend that somebody can do? What would be the opportunities or the best practices to try and take some of this knowledge and use it to move forward, to make their marketing, to make their clarity on their ideal client, even better. But of course, they can't tap into that rich database that you have with millions of data points. But what could somebody do if they don't have a lot of money to invest in doing that? What would be the opportunities for them?
Well, first of all, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you don't try to solve problems, you probably shouldn't be one. So it's a great question because most people that start like I did, where I put my own dollars into the company, don't have a lot of money to start and try to and say, hey, I can't invest, the $7,500 to invest in this data report, right? And so it was funny. I was doing an interview the other day, and someone said, "Well, let's say you want to start a restaurant. How would you utilize the first step of this undefeated market system?" I said, "Oh, okay, perfect. First of all, I'd flyer the neighborhood around the restaurant and tell people, hey, buy one entree, get one free. Come try our restaurant, right? Bring butts and seats, as I like to
Yeah.
say." The second thing I do is I would train my entire workforce, all the waiters, the hostesses, to figure out what are people ordering, what did they like the most, what's the best, and then take note of that and then enter it into a database every single day.
Mm,
Eventually, you're going to find out what sells the most and what sells the least. And then if you're a smart business owner, you start selling more of of what people want, and then build your menu around the things that people really want rather than the things they don't want. And the other thing again is you ask your customers, what did you like about this restaurant? What moved you? Why would you come back? Would you come back? What
mm,
would make you come back? And then you enter into all that data. Yes, it's work. It's hard work. It's
right.
also the way you build. It's got a guaranteed success rate. And then once you do that, you start building an advertising campaign. And by the way, let's say you spend money without a marketing agency. Good. By the way, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all these people have metrics and data that you can grab out. What were people clicking on? What were they not? Did you offer a 2-for-1 deal on an entree, or did you just show this menu? What part of your ads got the most ROI? And then
Mm,
you optimize to that. There are a million ways if you have any ingenuity that you can figure out how to get better data and understand is it the best data? No, no. But we're not always there. I've been in those shoes. I understand
yeah.
that.
I think what you're saying here, and this is super valuable, is that earlier on, if you're not in the position to invest more upfront, it just means you're going to be doing more manual collection of data, more
That's right.
analysis manually. If you're able to invest more, it's going to allow you to really accelerate the amount of different things that you can test, the data that you can get access to right away, and essentially answer some of the questions that you might have. But regardless, it's all about kind of looking at where are the opportunities and not just taking kind of a blind leap of faith and going, I'm just going to do this kind of campaign and see how it goes. I mean, you could do that, but you still have to analyze it. And so I think that's really what I'm hearing you say, is that far too often what people are doing is that they're not doing enough testing. They're not asking enough questions. They're not gathering enough, as much data as they could and should be. And that data, when you really kind of analyze it and go through it consistently, that's where the hidden gems are. That's where the big opportunity lies. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, find out what your customer wants and give it to them.
yeah.
And if you don't have money, then that's it on a bumper sticker.
Right. There we go. Phil, there's so much more that we can get into. Before
Mhm.
we wrap up, I have a few more questions that I want to go over here, and then we'll make sure that we can direct people to where they can learn more about your books and your system and everything else that you're offering. You've accomplished a lot in your business. You've grown two businesses. You've written books. You're on media. I mean, clearly you are a high performer. When you look at your habits, what are one or two things that you find you do on a daily, consistent basis that really help you to perform at that high level?
Yeah, the way that it works for me is that I don't do things every single day in the same way. I,
Tell me
I
more
would
about that.
I would tell you I'd be a contrarian in that answer. Some people need that. I have a very addictive quality. It's probably all part of my ADD, which is I have to be engaged in what I'm doing, and then once I get engaged, I go all in, and it's hard to pull out. It's hard to be married to that, right? And so if I want to be a good dad, if I want to be a good husband, right, and I want to be a good business person, and I want to take care of myself, and one of the things I've struggled with is just loving myself over the years, and I've had to learn
Mm,
how to do that. Then it means that I can't always follow the things that are going to make me the most successful in business. I was in therapy about a year ago, and my therapist said to me, Philip, you could be a billionaire, no doubt. You got that. That's an option on the table, but everything else is going to fall away. Your marriage is going to fall apart. Your being a dad is going to be not working out. I've got a daughter. She's not going to be you're going to be very imbalanced in life. There are going to be a lot of things that suffer, but you'll have a lot of money. So you just have to make sure you understand what that choice is. This is for me, right? This is my story.
Sure.
And so for me, I have to break myself of habits, because if I don't, then I get really imbalanced and I go hardcore into one thing and I ignore everything else.
How do you do
So
that? Is there one example of like how you're able to actually break yourself from, let's say, going too deep just into
yeah,
go?
I could wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and work out, meditate, and then come into the office about 6:30
Okay.
and read, write, study for about 5 straight hours. Even this ADHD kid or ADD kid, I literally could do that. The problem is I'd miss my daughter's breakfast, or I'd miss taking her to school,
Mm-hmm.
or I missed an intimate, nice conversation with my wife over coffee that morning. So there are mornings I can do that, and there are mornings I can't do that. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to be okay with that. And, I meditate, I do transcendental meditation. I don't always do it, because it shouldn't be checking something off a box. It should be, do I feel like it? And is it going to help me? And is it going to help me love myself even more?
Yeah.
And so I have to figure those things out. I could work every Sunday for 12 hours. Oh, I could do it so happily. I love it. I mean, it would be the best. No phones are ringing, no emails are coming in. I could do it everything. Just give me a shot. I'd love it. That's not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I don't love it. I actually love laying around watching stupid cartoons. Not stupid. I love sitting around watching cartoons with my daughter. Right. And I've got to learn to have that balance. And for me, Michael, ultimately that balance is that I just mix everything up all the time, and it keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, no, it's great to get that perspective. Last 6 months, what's one or two books that you've listened to or read that could be fiction or nonfiction, but you just feel have had a big impact on you?
Yeah, one would be Steve Runella's book on survival skills. The guy has a show on Netflix called Meat Eater, and he's like one of the only people ever to write hunting books that have made the #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. But he's got one on survival and hunting skills and camping skills. For me personally, I'm like 100% into hunting right now. I'm doing things that are outdoors more. Again, loving myself more. These are the kind of things I really want to do. So that's been really good. And the book I'm reading right now that's just been a game changer is called The Gap in the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. They wrote a book that changed my life about a year ago called Who, Not How.
Yeah.
And if I realized that all of my mistakes in business came from me asking, how can I do this? Rather than who can help me do this. And every time I answer a who, I have success, right? Well, now they just wrote a book called The Gap in the Gain, which is, do you want me to give you the premise, or do you know
Yeah,
it?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, share for
Yeah, the
everybody.
premise is basically we're always shooting for a 10x return. And when we don't get it, we sit there and bitch and complain about how we didn't meet our outcomes, and it depresses us on stuff. And they teach that actually, if you just look back to where you were a year ago or 2 years ago, that if you saw how much you've come along in the
Mhm.
last year or two, rather than think about what you don't have, think about how great things have gotten and be happy about that. It kind of goes back to the previous question. Be happy about that, and then keep striving to be better every day, or that 10x goal, but be happy and excited and grateful that you've come 3x and not 10x. And so for people like me, that's a good reminder. And
Yeah.
Dan, by the way, Dan Sullivan, Canadian.
Yep. Toronto based, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Philip, great having you on. A lot of gems in the conversation today, and so much more that people could dive into and learn, whether it's with your books or from your website, content that you put out
Yeah.
over the years. If there's one place that you would recommend that people go to learn just more about all that, where should they go to connect and learn more?
Yeah, a couple things. Oh, it's one place is philipstutts.com, but I have a podcast called the Undefeated Marketing Podcast. We've had Jay Abraham on, we've had James Altucher on, we've had Peter Diamandis on, who's Elon Musk's business partner. You can subscribe to my blog there, and also we have a offer of the data that we talked about. We offer a free data assessment for you guys, or anybody out there that's interested. we'll talk about your customer or client list, and we'll tell you how it looks with our data. It doesn't cost anything. My team will do a call with you on it. So that's at philipstutts.com. I think the direct link is philipstutts.com /insights.
All right, there we go. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Philip, thanks again so much for coming
Hey,
on.
thank you, man. Love what you're doing out there. Keep it up.